2008 Syrah. I'm Scott Jordan. You're watching live here at Cellars of Sonoma. I've got Jack Mitchell from Jack and Tony's Restaurant and Whiskey Bar. If you're ever in Railroad Square and you want to have some whiskey or scotch, this guy's got the biggest selection north of the Golden Gate Bridge. Easy.
Easy.
Wouldn't you think?
We have about 285 whiskeys.
285. You got to love that. Wow. I got to get in more, I guess, huh?
We see you a lot, Scott. What are you talking about?
That's right. My record's 105 visits, so let's see if I had two. I'm almost there. So, James Family Cellars, 2008 Mounds Vineyard, $35 retail, $26.25. I'll extend that a little longer for my wine club members if you want to reorder this wine, but it's pouring awful darn good. So we're back. I want to give you the answer to this question. This is interesting. In a restaurant, it's appropriate to send a bottle back of wine you just don't like. Okay, Jack.
Well, I'll give you the restaurateur's perspective.
Okay.
For example, we don't just have whiskey. We have some nice wines. We have maybe 40 wines on the list. About half of them are by the glass. So a lot of our sales are one glass at a time. We have certainly our service staff and bartender staff trained to open each bottle, pour a splash for themselves, maybe just in a little tasting glass or a rocks glass, smell it, taste it before it gets poured. Once the bottle's opened, you realize the rest of that bottle is fine to serve for each of those glasses that are in it. For the service staff, most of the wines are served at the table, and they're opening it for the guest. And it's the guest that's taking that first experience of that wine. Usually it's that half-ounce pour with a swirl and a sniff, maybe a taste. They might squeeze the cork. They might sniff the cork. They might throw the cork over their shoulder. Whatever their ritual is to determine whether they like the wine. There are a couple things in wine that can be flaws that are legitimate reasons to refuse the wine and have it sent back. THC or corked wines are still prevalent. Yeah. There could be oxidized wines. There could be spoilage due to warm storing temperatures, right, where the wine gets a little bit cooked. Sometimes that's indicative in the color, a little bit brick orange color instead of the nice bright red, for example, in a red. Or sometimes a dark tawny gold instead of a bright shiny gold in a white. Mm-hmm. So those can be spoiled wines, and we do run across those. We like to catch them before they get served, but occasionally wines do get returned to us. Again, it's the guest is sort of the boss in this instance, and if they don't like it, they'll send it back. We will check it because often the winemaker wants to know why their wine wasn't good. They also want to make sure that their wine isn't served because that puts their winery or brand in a bad light. So they're happy to replace it if it's in fact corked or oxidized or cooked or something like that. When those wines come back from the table, my bar staff or management staff or myself often will sample them to make sure that indeed it is that problem and not a different problem. Once a while, and I'm talking literally maybe twice a year, once every 6 months, we'll get a wine that is absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with it, no flaws. The guest returned it because they didn't enjoy it or they were mistaken about it being not servable. And so at that point, it either gets returned, it goes to the staff for staff training because often these are more expensive bottles that we don't offer by the glass, so they rarely get to try them. And so they'll get a little bit of a treat and a little bit of wine education out of it. Of course, if the guest orders another bottle of the same and returns that, we're talking about a different issue. but oftentimes they will change to maybe a different winery or a different brand in the same category, the same varietal, that invariably they will be happy with.
So you're too nice. Because the answer is false, and it's if a wine's flawed, like you talked about, which would be a corked or oxidized or spoiled, you should send it back. But according to the famed wine expert, Andrea Immer, if you select it and simply don't like it, it's not appropriate to send it back. You're being really nice to your customers, this is
the hospitality industry. Scott.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time. Now, I always tell my customers when they buy wine by the glass, what I tell them to do is really make sure that you enjoy that wine. If you think for 1 minute that wine is oxidized even a little bit, send it back. That's not
That's just a one glass purchase,
right.
and that's easy for the to remedy.
Yeah. So the proper thing to do is pick the wine that you really like, and then if it's just a choice of, gee, I just don't like it. I don't know. That's a tough one. I thought I'd pull that one out for you though. So that's a really difficult one, but it doesn't come off. Doesn't happen that often.
Not very much.
No.
There was one time though, years ago, not my restaurant. I was just a chef there, and some guests had come in, and we had a nice wine program, very expensive French restaurant, and they ordered the 1985 Mouton Rothschild.
Ouch.
Didn't enjoy it. Sent it back. And the wine steward refused to open another bottle for them of the same wine. They said, I love this 85. I've smelled this wine. I've tasted this wine. You don't know what you're talking about. But they insisted. So he said, okay, you're not going to enjoy the next bottle because it's going to taste exactly the same. So he opened the 1988 Mouton Rothschild for them. They didn't like that either. He said, and this was the French, right? He said, you're buying one or the other of those. Which one would you like to drink with your dinner? Fortunately, he poured each of them a glass of the 88, which they didn't really much enjoy. They brought back the 85 Mouton Rothschild first growth Bordeaux to the kitchen, to the chef and the kitchen crew, just as a little perk. At that very moment, the pastry chef was wheeling out a whole tray of flourless chocolate cupcakes with this rich dark Mexican chocolate.
Oh my gosh.
And we had each a slice of this chocolate cake with that 85 Mouton, and it was
incredible.
Memorable. I'm still talking about it.
I love it. So where's my wine? Oh, here it is. Okay. So we just did a Syrah from James. Now here's a Syrah from a completely different appellation, a little warmer climate, I would say. Alexander Valley fruit. This is Gann Family Cellars. This is the epitome of small production wines. He made 85 cases, guys. 85 cases is probably a lot to put in your garage, but other than that, that's not a lot of production.
Not at all.
That is tiny, micro production.
Well,
I mean,
how much help does Michael have with this? Not much,
no,
right?
No, man. I mean, it's you know, his hand is in every barrel.
Absolutely.
Aging in French oak. This particular vineyard is absolutely magnificent, making just stellar wines. And that's a 2007. So far, what have you seen in 2007? I'm sure liking it.
Yep.
I haven't seen a bad one yet. I really haven't.
It's I think that the 2010 vintage is going to remind us a lot of 07. And these wines right now, 3 years in the bottle, they're tasting nice. This is going to be one to remember.
Yeah. Great price point, $40 retail. The reorder price on that is $30 for my wine club members. I get big chocolate in this wine, and I get the
little spice too.
Yeah, some spice, and I get this soft, lingering finish that you see in all of the Alexander Valley wines,
especially paired with French oak.
Yeah, right. I mean, just absolutely silky finish. That's a pre-release. We'll be rolling into that probably in the next month or so. And but 85 cases, are you kidding me? So, get the stuff while we have it. I'm telling you, these things are going to evaporate. They're going to be gone. And you can't go anywhere and get them. These are only available here. They're not available in the grocery store. You're not going to see that.
Nope.
All right. So this one, another Syrah.
Mm-hmm. Very different in my mind what I would eat with this, or if I were to choose between the two Syrahs. Definitely steered more towards this one with a little bit more savory, a little bit more meaty ingredients. I think this is something that would go much better with an entree. This would be like the main wine for dinner. The other one would be great with the cheese, especially before or after. And truthfully, I like cheese after, especially with reds, not with whites. And with the ingredients I chose here, I don't know if it was that it's a warmer weather appellation or warmer climate, but it sort of shows in the wine. It really led me towards thinking about summer and thinking about having this with a little bit more summery ingredients, things that are always available generally in California. But I would really enjoy this with a lot of the ingredients I've chosen. First off, lamb loin. And for that, we'll allow, if you want to do a lamb T-bone cut or a rack of lamb or a boneless sirloin, those would all qualify in that loin for this purpose.
Okay.
So somehow do the lamb. Maybe if it was summertime, I would braise that lamb. I'm sorry, I would put that lamb on the grill. Maybe put a few sprigs of rosemary underneath the briquette to, infuse some smoke onto the lamb on the grill. Maybe if it was winter, I'd sear it off and cook it in some red wine very slowly in the oven. So there's a lot of different techniques that can be done with this lamb. And the rest of the ingredients that flesh it out, polenta, Kalamata olives, Roma tomatoes, garlic, some cucumber, eggplant, Swiss chard. So again, those are some more Mediterranean style ingredients that pair classically with lamb, with a Rhone varietal as well. And there's a lot of leeway there to come up with something really fun.
And then you also put in cucumbers?
Cucumbers, right? Lemon, I think, garlic, if I didn't say that, pearl onion. So in some form, the cucumbers could be a little raw salad on the side. Or they could be made with the olives into a little tapenade that would go on the top as sort of a chunky sauce.
Now, see, these are hints, you guys. Those of you that are really going to do this, these are little hints because we want creativity here. We don't want somebody just taking all those, throwing it in a pan and let's move on.
There's a lot of ingredients here, but they're within a range of styles. It's not completely crazy. I wasn't trying to make it difficult. I was trying to make it interesting.
Well, I think it's going to be really interesting.
I do.
We're going to take a little break. Jack's going to take a break and do a little cooking. All right. A question first, then we'll take the break.
Jack, do you have a favorite dish you create and a favorite wine to complement that?
So the question is, do you have a favorite dish and a favorite wine to complement that dish? Wow. Was that Dan? Wow.
That would be Dan.
Oh, Dan. I love it.
Favorite's a tough one. That depends on time of day of the week, time of year.
It does.
Certainly, I love to do slow braised roast or things like that in the winter. I love to do barbecue in the summer. One of my favorites is eggs Benedict with mimosas.
Ooh.
Who's going to claim that as their number one?
We can do mimosas here. We can do those.
There's room in my heart for that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one. I get that kind of question all the time.
Yeah, it's hard to narrow it to just one.
Yeah. All right, so take off. Go make that. Jack will be back in a minute because he's going to just